Okay, so 2 picks later, they take a tight end who runs a 4.78. Say what you want about Cameron Latu. Great kid, switched from defense, new to the position, still learning. He runs a 4.78. Just to put that in perspective, Joe Staley, when Joe Staley came out of Central Michigan, at his pro day, he ran a 4.79 at 306 pounds. I mean, there are offensive tackles in the NFL who run faster than 4.78. Like, this is, I mean, most all-pro tight ends run a little bit faster than this. So what is the vision here for Cam Latu in round 3?
That's a tough one because I didn't see him as being a guy that had any business going at 101. I think Latu was a guy who should have. I think most people were looking at him as being someone who's going to be 150 to 200.
Yeah,
you know, in that ballpark. And I think what happened here is the 49ers go into the draft and they feel like they need to get a safety, they need to get a kicker, they need to get a tight end,
a blocking tight end.
And what happened is the deal is you start to look at the names. You don't have any tight ends. No tight ends go off the board on the first day, but on day 2,
pretty much run.
Every tight end that the 49ers had really worked with was gone by the time they came up at 101. And
there was a big time run.
It's pretty much, are you going to take Cameron Latu? If you believe in him, yeah. Then because otherwise it's like, okay, is he going to fall all the way to 155?
Maybe not.
And
so that's just get him.
And again, and that's the only way that it makes sense is because if you wait till 155, does Rand Carthon like him enough to take him at 147? Because he took Wiley out of Cincinnati at 147, the guy at Tennessee. So that's the only saving grace for the 49ers. But Latu at 101 that's a tough one. That is the one where if you want, I think this is the pick that should be scrutinized more than the kicker.
Yeah, and to me, it's a classic Kyle Reach where he falls in love with a guy for whatever reason, and he's envisioning him in his offense. He has to have him, and they reach, and it's like, I don't care. I wanted him. He's my guy, and it's like, well, I'll make it work. I'll feature him. I'll justify it like the way he did with Christian McCaffrey. Like, oh, everyone says I shouldn't have done this. Let me give him the ball 30 times a game. What do you say now that he's got 1,500 yards and 77 touchdowns? What do you think now? He could theoretically he could do that for Cam Latu, but he has to be good enough to be on the field. And then the Niners draft another tight end in round 7, and I'm thinking like, oh, here we go. This is the scouting staff being like, okay, like you want a tight end? Well, you got your guy. We'll just give you another guy, and you can have him. You can put them both in practice and see who you like better. I mean, didn't they do that with like Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell? I mean, Ty Davis Price and Jordan Mason. So, okay, you're looking for that kind of a guy. Okay, that's your choice. We can't tell you not to make that choice. Here's our choice. You know what I'm saying? Well, be open-minded, please.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. Yeah,
it's interesting because I felt like I thought tight end was a position of need. I also thought that they should have added an offensive lineman during the draft. And it's interesting when you get to this pick because there was a couple of guys. There was one guy on the board that everybody had been talking about,
Blake Freeland.
Yeah. And Blake Freeland pretty much played just left tackle at BYU the last 2 years. I know he played some right tackle earlier on in his career. It's really interesting because they passed on him time and time again before he was taken. And Joe Staley, who goes to Cabo with Kyle, is the one who worked him out and got him ready for the draft. And they passed on him.
Maybe Joe said something to the Niners like, maybe he said, hey, remember Mike McGlinchey?
Maybe.
Do you want Mike McGlinchey again? Do that. Here's the thing. Maybe there's something to like not taking a left tackle and moving him to right tackle. That doesn't always work.
I think for me, I think that's a big piece of it because you struggle when you move from one side to the other, and you start to look. I would ask.
You can't take that for granted.
Ask anybody that's complaining about the 49ers not taking an offensive lineman in the top 155. There were very few guys that played on the right side, and as far as right tackle, Braden Daniels goes. I don't know where he went. I think it was 118. He is from Utah, the tackle from Utah. He's one of the few guys who played left and right tackle in the last 2 years.
I think Nick Saldiveri played on the right, but he was at Old Dominion, and his arms are a little short, and he might move to guard. Like that would be the guy. And I think he was the first pick in round 4. He might have been 102. I think he was 102.
I'm not sure where he was taken, but Saldiveri too. But and the thing with both Daniels and Saldiveri is both of them project as guards in the NFL.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's when you hear the 49ers say there wasn't.
Now you can say the same thing about McKivitz, though. I'm just saying, like,
No,
McKivitz plays some guard in the NFL too, you know?
Yeah, and he's bounced all around. He's played.
Yeah.
He's been all over the place. I think he even.
Yeah, Saldiveri was 103. That's one to look at. Like, I think it's fair to track Cam Latu versus Saldiveri, their careers, because I mean, right tackle, shorter arms, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Saldiveri, and Blake Freeland.
And the Saints are pretty good at drafting and developing offensive linemen. Not that many teams are good at it. They're like one of 8, 7, 5.
I think the 49ers are pretty good at drafting and developing. I think the 49ers have a very good offensive line coach. They do a very good job.
I think they're good at developing it, but they don't draft it. They don't fucking draft it.
It could be a situation.
They don't fucking draft it.
Well, when was the
They
last
should
time
think about it. Forrest
just
is good.
What was it, second round pick for Banks? But other than that, yeah, you're right in terms of the timing of that.
I mean, Banks was actually a pretty good pick. They needed to do it. It wasn't Josh Garnett.
Yeah,
anyway,
so but on the Latu pick, yeah, this is a tough one just because he wasn't supposed to be there. Again, they kind of, I think, with the way that everything kind of fell, it was just like, this is the best player available. We like him because we've met with him and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and it's a reach, but there's been a run on tight ends and maybe a lot of those tight ends. It was interesting. Green Bay took Luke Musgrave at 42 and then Tucker Kraft at 78. Like, they doubled up on tight ends before the Niners could take one. I bet the Niners didn't see that coming when they were trying to figure out where the tight ends would go.
Probably not. And then
2 to Green Bay.
Yeah, wow. 49ers end up doubling up on tight ends too at the end. So.
Is this all because the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years? Like, hey, that tight end they got over there is really good and kind of underpaid.
When it comes to the I don't know about around the NFL, but for the 49ers, the problem that San Francisco has is they have George Kittle and then they have a bunch of guys. Charlie Warner can't catch it.
Bite your tongue when you talk about Ross Dwelly. All right.
No, Ross is the boss. When it comes, Ross has the best hands on the team. He just doesn't block all that well. He blocks okay. He can get in the guy's way, But they needed to have a guy that could replace Charlie Warner. I think Latu is more. They're trying to get rid of Charlie Warner in a way. They're trying to find something.
Talk about a guy who gave the team nothing the last 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, last season he was wide open twice deep, and ball hit him in the hands, and he dropped them both.
Like Tyler Kroft is on the field because Charlie Warner does nothing. Charlie Warner was supposed to be that guy, right? The blocking type, like special team. Yeah.
Yeah, and the 49ers have been trying to find for a long time a guy that can be that second tight end that can actually catch the ball and do all those types of things. And so we'll see if I'm not sure if Latu's the guy that's what they're hoping for, but I think the jury's definitely out on that one for sure.
In Atlanta, his number 2 tight end was Levine Toilolo. So maybe he feels like, you know what? Latu's a lot like, Toilolo was like the slowest tight end of all time. Let's go back and look at Levine. I feel like there might be.
He was also like, what, 6'7"? He was a big dude. He was
like 6'8". He's freaking huge. All right, Levine Toilolo, 10 years ago. Because he was a 4'8". He was 6'8", 260. All right, so Kyle, he's had experience with slow number 2 tight ends. They're essentially like they're like small offensive tackles in their run game. So Latu, you're essentially like a small move to offensive tackle in the run game. You're gonna justify this pick with his run blocking. I think they drafted him for his run blocking. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I saw
him do a reach block.
He had some decent numbers in the receiving game at Bama, but and we'll see. I mean, he doesn't stand out on the film there. You can find it's like everybody. You can find a couple good highlights of him though.
All right, do we need to talk about the fact that the Niners didn't draft an offensive lineman? I think we've been sort of belaboring the point for the last half hour. We could move to defense.
I think we have. I think we just talked about that here with Latu.
Yeah.